Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, it's a bit, or I feel it's a bit too high. Good. So, let's offer our prayers and ask for blessing and for guidance so that we can speak something that will be of value and inspiration to everyone who is present. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. So, let us hear the verse that we will be discussing today. Yesterday, we started with the fifth canto of not fifth canto, with the 16th chapter of the fifth canto. I need this a bit lower. Can you please put it for me? So, we started with the 16th chapter of the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, verse 1, and today we are continuing with two verses, verse 2 and verse 3. So, as it is written in prose, we will not be reciting it, which is to my relief, because it's not easy to recite it. But I will definitely read the translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. So first, the verse number 2. My dear Lord, so we have Parikshit Maharaj speaking, and he's actually asking a question to Shukadeva Goswami, who is his spiritual master. And he already started by that question in the first verse, and these two more verses are concluding his question. My dear Lord, the rolling wheels of Maharaj Priyavrata's chariot created 7 ditches in which the 7 oceans came into existence. Because of these 7 oceans, Bhumandala is divided into 7 islands. You have given a very general description of their measurement, names, and characteristics. Now, I wish to know of them in detail. Kindly fulfill my desire. There is no purport for this verse, so we are going to the verse number 3. First, the translation. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature, made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who in his subtle form is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. O my Lord, please describe vividly how that form, which covers the entire universe, is perceived. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit had already been advised by his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami, to think of the universal form of the Lord, and therefore, following the advice of his spiritual master, he continuously thought of that form. The universal form is certainly material, but because everything is an expansion of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately, nothing is material. Ultimately, nothing is material. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj's mind was saturated with spiritual consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated, Prapanchika taya budya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubih parityago vairagyam phalgu katyate. Everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Gauranitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. So, let us repeat this important sentence. Everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur translates this verse as follows. Hari sevaya yaha haya anukula, vishaya balya tahara tyage haya bula. One should not give up anything connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thinking it material or enjoyable for the material senses. Now Prabhupada continues. Even the senses, when purified, are spiritual. When Maharaj Parikshit was thinking of the universal form of the Lord, his mind was certainly situated on the transcendental platform. Therefore, although he might not have had any reason to be concerned with detailed information of the universe, he was thinking of it in relationship with the Supreme Lord. And therefore, such geographical knowledge was not material, but transcendental. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.20, Narada Muni has said, Idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivetaraha. The entire universe is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although it appears different from him. Therefore, although Parikshit Maharaj had no need for geographical knowledge of this universe, that knowledge was also spiritual and transcendental because he was thinking of the entire universe as an expansion of the energy of the Lord. In our preaching work also, we deal with so much property and money and so many books bought and sold, but because these dealings all pertain to the Krishna consciousness movement, they should never be considered material. That one is absorbed in thoughts of such management does not mean that he is outside of Krishna consciousness. If one rigidly observes the regulative principles of chanting 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra every day, his dealings with the material world for the sake of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement are not different from the spiritual cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please join me in Mangalchar, invoking the auspiciousness and the blessings. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vesakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Kakanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So what do we have here? We have the beginning of one chapter that, as Prabhu was explaining yesterday, is very technical, with very technical descriptions of the universal form of the Lord. And we have Parikshit, who is an ideal, Parikshit Maharaj, who is an ideal disciple, and he is intent upon following the instructions of his spiritual master, and he wants to follow them even better. So then he wants some detailed information about that form that Shukadeva Goswami has instructed him to think about. So then we read our 2 verses, and the second verse of this chapter is, or Parikshit Maharaj, he gives just a very brief introduction into the topic of this chapter. He says, he gives us a brief description of Bhumandala. And then we have the 3rd verse, which we will be focusing upon. And in that 3rd verse, the meditation upon the universal form of the Lord is glorified. And Prabhupada begins his purport by saying that actually he's pointing out that observing this material form, this universal form of the Lord, not material, universal form of the Lord, may be deceiving. We may look at the material energy and we may think that that is all that is, just the material energy, but that is deceiving, because that material energy has its source in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's connected to Krishna, and in that way, it's, in one way, non-different from Him. So in the same way that we have this deceiving situation here in Bhagavatam that is addressed, we have also one deceiving situation happening here in the temple room. To someone who might be observing this, I think that this might be, I don't know, streamed, or maybe it's later published on some social platform. Maybe not. They warn me that it is, but maybe not. But still, if someone would be now, like Prabhu there, if he would look at this situation here, he would see me sitting here and speaking and giving a class, and you're there hearing, and maybe one could suspect learning from me. But there is nothing more, there is nothing that could be further than truth in this situation, at least as far as I'm concerned, because I have heard a long time ago that the best way to learn any subject matter is to teach it. So I'm here to learn. And I'm very grateful to all of you who are giving me this opportunity to learn in this kind of setting. And I would like to use this opportunity to ask for your kind blessings upon me so that we can communicate something that will be of benefit and inspiration to both you and me. So please shower your blessings upon me. Thank you. I consider it given. Good. Okay. So when I was reading the verses on the purport, what caught my attention are some radical statements from Srila Prabhupada. And I will repeat two of them. He says, ultimately, nothing is material. Nothing is material. And everything, even that which is material, is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So very radical, very profound. So I wanted to ponder upon, I wanted to understand them better, these two statements, because Prabhupada is not speaking much of the universal form of the Lord in his purport. He's just mentioning that the universal form of the Lord is important to Parikshit Maharaj, and then we can assume also to us, because we are also devotees of the Lord, is important to us only because it's connected to Krishna. And that's what Prabhupada says in the purport. He doesn't go further. But let me go back to these two statements that caught my attention. Everything, ultimately, nothing is material. So it reminded me of one class that I've heard many years ago. I believe it was from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, because I have in my notebook, I have other quotes from his class, so I believe it was from him, but because specifically below this quote, I don't have any name written, I cannot guarantee that this is so, but I think it was from him, or definitely from someone whom I see as an authority to learn from. So this is the quote that very much connects to this statement of Prabhupada. It is very important to see everything connected to Krishna. Why? Because otherwise it becomes a battle between Krishna and other things. If we see things separated from Krishna, then these other things give us one experience, and Krishna gives us other experience. And then we cannot bring these two together. So the way I understood that quote, based on also the remaining part of that class, is that there is certain danger that, for example, now we are here in the temple of the Lord, and we are in the association of these wonderful Vaishnavas, and Prabhupada is here, and Krishna is here present. So it's easy to see how this situation here, this experience here is connected to Krishna. But then there is a danger when we go out of the temple. Maybe, I don't know, some of you live here in the temple, but we live outside, we go and we do some job, we do some work. We have exchanges with people who don't have any committed spiritual practice. And we forgo the danger, the risk of going out there and thinking that these experiences, these exchanges have not much to do with Krishna. So I think that this is what Maharaj was warning us about. Like, not only that there is that danger, but then we also might miss the opportunity to learn that what is needed for us to learn, especially if, like me, I don't live in the temple. So Krishna might actually give me the opportunity to learn something very important for my spiritual life in the interactions with the people whom I meet daily, and they might not be the devotees. So it's so important to integrate these two worlds that might seem separated, but they are not. Everything, as Prabhupada says, everything is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that way, when we go out in the world where things are not so obviously connected with Krishna, I was remembering also Avadhuta Brahmana, the story of Avadhuta Brahmana from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Some of you maybe know about that story, but basically what his experience was, that he was in the world and he saw everyone and everything as a guru, as a spiritual teacher, right? So even a prostitute he saw as a guru, or a bee, or a moth. Who thinks of a moth as of a guru? But he saw that everything is connected, that we can find our lessons for our spiritual advancement everywhere, because everything is connected to Krishna. And then I remembered a quote of Srila Prabhupada that is very dear to me. I think it's a famous quote, famous statement, but I'm not sure. Maybe I think it's famous because I'm fond of it. And it's from the purport to the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 13, verse 53, for those of you who like maybe to know that down. And Prabhupada says, one should understand that no one is independent, for everything is part and parcel of Krishna and is acting and moving by the supreme desire of Krishna. This understanding, this consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Can I repeat it? I can, because it's nice, right? One should understand that no one is independent, for everything is part and parcel of Krishna and is acting and moving by the supreme desire of Krishna. This understanding, this consciousness is Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada basically gives us a definition of what Krishna consciousness is. And so I was thinking in that direction. Let me just check the time. I have very little time and very much to say. So I have to now decide what will I cut out from what I prepared without losing the flow. Yeah? So for me, I will skip a bit and hopefully it still flows in some way. So for me, this addresses one of the main principles of bhakti. And that is that everything belongs, everything is included. Sometimes we have the tendency, us who grew up in the Western culture, by now this is a global modern culture, we have the tendency to focus on some things like on the negative parts, or what do we need to renounce, or to look what are our faults, what are our mistakes, misgivings, and we actually get stranded. We get distracted from the main point of bhakti. And the main principle, the point of bhakti, according to my understanding, is a positive engagement. How to be positively engaged in all this that Krishna is offering us. Once there was this thing happened. A person came to Prabhupada and he already heard a lot, Prabhupada's classes and everything, and this was the first time that he's meeting Prabhupada face to face. And he came to Prabhupada, offered his obeisances, and he said, Prabhupada, I'm ready to renounce everything for you. And Prabhupada said, the only thing that you need to renounce is that very idea that you need to renounce something. In other words, everything belongs. Like Prabhupada also said once, just add Krishna. Don't think of this, we can get distracted in the wrong direction. So, the only thing that you need to renounce is that very idea. True. Confirmed. Confirmed. Important point. Okay. So everything belongs, everything is connected with Krishna. Even sometimes when we speak of this material body, we will be going in that way like, oh, this material body, it's an obstacle, it's a distraction. Why don't we think, which is also present there in our scriptures, oh, this body is such a gift. It's a temple of the Lord. It's a vehicle which is given to me, and by using that vehicle, I can engage myself in devotional service and advance spiritually. What a gift, what a, right? So I like that part. And bhakti, as far as I understand it, I might be wrong, is much more about that kind of positive engagement than looking at the things that, we don't attain attachment to Krishna by renouncement, by austerities, by tapasya. Not really. A bit of austerity is needed in bhakti, a bit. Not much. We attain attachment, or what I wanted to say, I lost it. We don't attain, this is correction. We don't attain detachment from this world by austerities, by tapasya. The other one is also true. We don't attain attachment to Krishna by austerity and by tapasya, but we don't attain detachment from this world by these things. We attain the detachment from this world by more attachment to Krishna. That is that way of the positive engagement. And in that sense, we can understand that whatever happens to us, whatever exchange we have with whomever in this world, that everything is given directly, personally, by Krishna. There is no karma for Krishna's devotee. In which sense? Of course, we will still be suffering some reactions from our past deeds, but not in that strict, oh, this is my karma and now I suffer. No, it's everything is given personally by the hand of the Lord. And to support that, I will read the last part of Prabhupada's purport to another famous verse from the 10th canto in the chapter 14, verse 18. Tatenukampamam verse. So, Prabhupada says that in order to attain Krishna, we need a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment. Curative means the one that is bringing about healing, right? A curative, if I'm pronouncing that well, treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. So everything is coming from the Lord personally. That's how much he cares for his devotees. And there was a story. It's not a story, it's a true thing. A big group of Russians came to visit Mayapur, and Russian devotees, they're known by their devotion. So they came and they were severely, bitten by mosquitoes, severely, whole body. They really had, many of it was really not a pleasant thing. And how they thought of it, they were so happy. They thought, oh, how merciful is our Lord Chaitanya. We have arrived here to the Holy Dham, and now all our old blood is removed, and we are getting a new blood. That was their idea. So they have a very positive vision of that experience that someone might have thought, oh, this is a very negative experience, and it has nothing to do with the Lord. But they immediately connected it to the Lord. In that connection, I'm also remembering, and this I will skip. It's a very good point, but I will skip it because otherwise we will not reach there where I want to reach. So that was one point that I wanted to make, that Prabhupada is actually not speaking much here about the universal form of the Lord, but he's speaking about this understanding that everything belongs, that everything is connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then I was thinking why Srila Prabhupada is not going further into the universal form of the Lord? Because it relates to the Supreme, to Personality of Godhead. It relates to Krishna. So then I thought, okay, let me go there where there is more of this topic. So I went to Bhagavad Gita, the chapter that is called the universal form, which is the chapter, someone? Which chapter of Bhagavad Gita? It's the chapter 11. But it's good. Thank you for trying. That's good. And then I went to the very end of that chapter. In our tradition, the things that are very important are placed either at the very beginning or at the very end, or also sometimes in the middle, or they're repeated, several options. So I went to the very last verse of that chapter, and then I went to the very last part of Prabhupada's purport, because there he's giving the summary of the whole chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is called the universal form. So Prabhupada says, in summary, the universal form of Krishna and the form of time, I'm skipping a bit, and even the form of Vishnu have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. So he's confirming the point, thus everything is connected to Krishna. And then he continues, and he says, please pay attention, this is very important. At least I find it important for myself. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, or we can add, there is also the universal form, Vishva-Rupa, Virat-Rupa of the Lord. But for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important, but only one, the original form, two-handed Shyam-Sundar. I thought, okay, this is one place, but let me maybe look up. Let me see if I am understanding this properly. So as I said, important things can be placed in the middle. So in Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 9, it's the middle part of Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes Bhagavad Gita is compared to a treasure chest. The upper part of the treasure chest are the first 6 chapters that speak mostly, not only, but mostly of karma yoga. The lower part of the chest are the last 6 chapters that speak mostly of jnana yoga. And then in between, we have the treasure, nicely protected, which speaks directly about the devotional service. And then in the middle of these 6 chapters, we have the 9th chapter. And in the middle of the 9th chapter, which is, by the way, called the most confidential knowledge, we have, somewhere around the middle, we have the verse number 19. And then in the purport of that verse, Prabhupada is addressing the point that we are discussing today. And he says, since Krishna is both matter and spirit, the gigantic universal form, the Vishva-Rupa, the Virat-Rupa, comprising all material manifestations, is also Krishna. And then Prabhupada will not miss opportunity to bring one more point to our attention. And his pastimes in Vrindavan as two-handed Shyam-Sundar, playing on a flute, are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again. So then I went to one more verse to be sure that I'm understanding this properly. I went to one verse that I like very much. It's the verse 30 in the chapter that is called Jnana Yoga, the chapter on the meditation. And let me just find it. And I went again, I can read this verse because it's a beautiful verse. So for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So again, this verse is addressing the point that we are speaking of. Again, seeing Krishna in everything and everything in him. And Prabhupada in the purport says, nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. So now, this is interesting. This connects to what we read, what Yamuna asked me to repeat, to that quote. And he says, and Prabhupada says, this is actually the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. So if something is basic, that means there is something else also that is maybe a bit more advanced or different or higher. And Prabhupada will also tell us what that is. So Prabhupada says, now, a second definition today of Krishna consciousness. So again, pay your attention, really important one. Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna. So it's now we are getting like a second part. Yes, it is, Krishna consciousness is to see Krishna everywhere and in everything, but Krishna consciousness is the development of love of Krishna. And then continuing further, Prabhupada will even quote another famous verse, the verse 538 from Brahma Samhita. Maybe some of you know the verse that starts with Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena, right? And the verse goes like this. I worship the primeval Lord, so Lord Brahma is speaking. I worship the primeval Lord, Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. So there we have that love. Krishna consciousness is development of love for Krishna. And by such devotee, the primeval Lord Govinda is seen in his eternal form of Shyam Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. The purport is even more beautiful than the verse. So if you are interested, please go to that purport and read it. I once heard something that I very much can relate to. Someone said that for us, Prabhupada's purports are even more important than the verses of the scriptures, because Prabhupada will open up, unlock the secrets that are in the verse. And not only that he will open up the secrets, but he will also show us what is his mood, what is his bhav. So in that sense, I came to the conclusion, now I need to hurry up. I came to the conclusion that of course, there are many levels and aspects on which we can practice Krishna consciousness. And here we have one, which Prabhupada says is the basic one, that we see everything and everyone, even the material energy, as connected to Krishna. And in that way, it is also spiritual. Ultimately, nothing is material, as Prabhupada said. So that is one way we can think of Krishna consciousness. But then there is also another way that we can think, and then Krishna consciousness is all about the development of love. And then when one thinks of that way of Krishna consciousness, one will be guided by Srila Prabhupada and by our acharyas to meditate on something else, not on the universal form of the Lord, which is important because it's connected to Krishna. But Prabhupada said, remember one of the purports I read, Prabhupada said, a devotee is interested in no other form but that one original form of Shyam Sundar. So I took that as my guidance. And that's why I asked Yamuna to place a title on this class and to say from Virat-Rupa to Vrindavan, because that's where I was guided by Prabhupada. Yes. And for that purpose, I would like to do with you a kind of meditation on that form of the Lord that Prabhupada is guiding us to meditate upon. And for that, I would like to use another famous verse. I'm sure this one is famous. If other things were not famous, this is surely famous. It's the 5th verse of the 21st chapter of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. That starts with Barha Pidam. And then maybe some of you know which verse I'm speaking of. I don't know. But it's the verse that describes Krishna in his form of Shyam Sundar, right? Shyam Sundar, entering the forest of Vrindavan. So let me just find that verse in Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 21st chapter. And then there is the verse describing Krishna. Just a moment, oops. So, please let me read that verse for your pleasure. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue carnicara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Baijayanti garland, Lord Krishna, exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. What a wonderful image to meditate upon. Shishi Nitai Gaur Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. And yesterday, the yesterday speaker was commenting how yesterday the altar was filled with lotuses, right? When the topic of was also the lotus flower of Bhumandala, yeah. And I was very happy when I came today because I didn't know what is on the altar. And then I saw, of course, the deities, but behind them there is a backdrop, and it depicts that forest of Vrindavan. So when I came here, I felt even more convinced that this is what I should be speaking of today, right? So how do we meditate upon this verse? We can take this verse and we can break it down in the maintaining 3.5 minutes. Of course, one can take much more time than that and go much deeper, but we try to just look at it. So there are like eight basic elements in this verse. The first one is that Krishna is wearing what? Peacock feather on his head. So why is he wearing it? Because he likes it. Any other answer? There was some lila with peacocks because peacocks were dancing, and they were dancing so beautifully. And at the end, the king of the peacocks took one of his most beautiful feathers and came to Krishna and offered it to him as an offering of. That's the most valuable thing that the peacock is possessing. So he offered that most valuable possession to Krishna. And Krishna, in order to remember that occasion and to honor that gift of love from the peacock, he placed it on nowhere else but on his head. So then there are other reasons we can hear why Krishna is wearing a peacock feather. We hear that sometimes that gopis' braids are described to be resembling the peacock tails, not when they are open and spread, but when they are down, they're going wide and then more narrow. So the gopis' braids resemble the peacock tails, and that's why, in remembrance of that, Krishna is wearing a peacock feather on his head. And there is also another pastime. So that's how we can meditate. I'm now or at least how we can do it. So the pastime when Krishna was having his pastimes with one gopi, and Srimati Radharani came to that place and she caught him having pastime. She was not there. Krishna was not with her, and she became angry. And Krishna, in order to escape her anger, turned into a black snake. A gopi, a gentle cowherd girl, she will not go after a black snake. But then Radharani, she turned into a peacock, because peacocks are known to catch the snakes. They're able to do that. So she turned into a peacock and she caught the snake. And then confirmed, Krishna admitted defeat by Radharani. And he said, in remembrance of this pastime, when she turned into a peacock, he's wearing a peacock feather on his head. So these are the ways we can meditate upon this element. Then the next one, Shyam Sundar is wearing a karnikara, a blue karnikara flower, tucked behind his ear. Someone here knows how a karnikara flower looks like? No, it looks like a trumpet. It's described, and even today we can see it. We can see the yellow kind of flowers, these flowers, and it's like a trumpet. It's here, it's narrow, and then it becomes wider. So it's really a perfect flower to place here behind the ear. And there are also the ways we can go further into that meditation, but I'll skip it because of time. And then Krishna, the next element in this verse that is described is that Krishna is wearing yellow garments that are brilliant as gold. So, anything that comes to your mind when you think of that? There is dhoti brilliant as gold. And how does Krishna look? What is his complexion? What do we hear from the scriptures? The complexion of Krishna? Bluish, dark. Sham is actually dark bluish, like a fresh monsoon cloud. So just imagine how beautifully that looks together. It's very, these are the complementary colors, like this dark bluish and this shining gold. And then on top of that, so we have a cloud, we have lightning. Sometimes that yellow color is compared to lightning. So we have a cloud, we have a lightning, and one thing that is missing is a rainbow. So Krishna has a peacock feather, which has so many colors. So that's the rainbow on top of it. So that's how we can meditate on that. And then the next element in the verse is that Krishna is wearing a Vaijayanti garland. What kind of garland is that? Someone knows? Forest flower garland. But yeah, five different colored flowers, right? Sometimes Tulsi is mentioned that they're different, but it has to be in 5 different colors. And how far does it reach on Krishna? Is it up to here, chest, navel, knees, feet? Knees. Some other? To the feet. Both are right. And most probably at some point Krishna also wears something that is maybe shorter. I don't know. But by Jayanti garland often said it goes all the way down up to the knees or feet. I remember once there was a big dilemma, like argument in Vrindavan. And they came to Indra Prabhu, who was demanding that a garland for Srimati Radharani is all the way down to her knees. And some other devotees came and said, no, that doesn't look good, it's too big, it's too long, and we should make shorter garlands from Srimati Radharani. And the person, Govinda Mataji, who is still today making garlands for Radha Shyam from the first day when garlands started to be made for Radha Shyam. Before they were made by the garland valas, and then Govinda Mataji came. She's living in Vrindavan since that time. And she started making, so she came to Indra Prabhu and she said, Prabhu, I'm having issues. You're asking me to make such long garlands, and other devotees are coming to me and they're chastising me for that. So what shall I do? And she said, Indra Prabhu immediately, who was who knew really the scriptures, he provided several proofs from the scriptures that the garland goes all the way up to the knees, even in the case of Srimati Radharani. So another way we can meditate on the garland of Srimati Radharani, who is always next to Shyam Sundar. Shyama Sundar is never without Radharani. So then the next element of this verse is that Krishna is in an attractive dancer's pose. And so what kind of form we hear Krishna is standing in, or three-banded, tribanga, right? And so it's banded, the feet are being crossed, that's one place. And then the hips are also going to the side due to the knees also being crossed. And then I have to show this because actually I was thinking about it. I have to show it because it's very interesting. So if you can try it. So if you put your foot here, look what happens naturally. My hips will also go that side. So that's also how Krishna is standing towards Srimati Radharani. The foot is pointing towards her and the hip is going to her. And then if you look at my upper body, it's now upright. And then when I do this, naturally my upper body will go there. But then Krishna is so tricky that he will do this. And he will, so it's this three band. Then the last band is at the shoulders. It's so attractive. Right? Such a wonderful image to meditate upon. Then we hear the next element are Krishna's footprints. What can we meditate upon when we hear that Krishna is leaving his footprints on the soil of Braj? Anything comes to your mind? The fish. What? We should meditate on the fish? Why? There are some marks on Krishna's lotus feet, and one of them is a fish. So we can meditate on this all in, there are 19 together on the left and on the right, and we can meditate upon them because our acharyas not only provided us with the list of those marks, but they also provided us with the meaning of those marks. You maybe know what is the meaning of the fish?
When one takes shelter in Krishna's lotus feet, one is like the fish in the water, where one should be.
Yes. I guess that's one of them. I think I remember that it's like that a fish, in the same way that fish cannot live without the water, Radha Krishna's devotees, they cannot live without Radha Krishna, Radha Shyam Sundar. So there are many. There is not only one meaning, there are many. So here, this is an opportunity for very deep meditation. For me, when I hear this, I remember the Brajraj, the dust of Braj on which Krishna is walking and which is still there for us today. And we hear from our acharyas that every particle of the dust of Braj is touched by Radha and Krishna. And that's why when we go to Vrindavan, the first thing we do, we throw ourselves on the ground and we pay obeisances in that dust, desiring to receive the touch of Radha Shyam Sundar's feet upon our heads, right? And our hearts. And then the seventh element is that Krishna is filling the holes of his flute by the nectar of his lips. What comes to your mind when you hear that? Anything that we can... What? How lucky the flute is, right? The gopis also meditate in a similar way. And there is even a whole chapter dedicated to that meditation of the gopis, which is called Venugita, right? Yeah, and also for me, when I hear of that, I think, the flute is a very important member of the party. It's one participant of Krishna's pastimes. And sometimes the gopis what will they do with Krishna's flute? They will steal Krishna's flute, right? They will even play on it, right? And then the last element that is mentioned in this particular words is that the cowherd boys did kirtan. They glorified Krishna as he was entering the forest of Vrindavan. So when we hear that, we can maybe remember the names of some of the cowherd boys. It's very auspicious for us to remember the associates of the Lord. And I'm way over time that is given. I was supposed to finish at 8:20, and now it's 8:28, but the topic is so wonderful. So anyone knows name of any of the cowherd boys that are associating with Krishna and having pastimes with him? Surely you know. Someone? Subal, yes? Shridam, yes. Who are the parents of Shridam? I'm sure that you know that also. Yeah, so Shridam is Radharani's brother, so then we know who the parents are. And who else? Madhu Mangal, a Brahmana, a chubby Brahmana friend of Krishna. Then there, Balaram is also there, of course. He's also there very, very well. And then Stoka Krishna, and then there is one cowherd boy named Arjuna. So there are many. There is one called Ojashvi, and I know this just due to the fact that one godbrother of ours got that name. Otherwise, it's not something that known, but yeah. So we can remember that, or they did kirtan. What kind of instruments did they use? What do we hear from the 10th canto? What are they using when they're out in the pasturing grounds? Flutes. What kind of flutes? You actually know. What kind of flutes? The Krishna style flute and pan flute. You know this, they look like drip. You can look pan flute, this everything connected, this like looking like, you can go online and see what it is. And what else do they use? They use buffalo horns. They use bugles, right? Bugle. So these are all the ways in which we can meditate upon the Lord. And because now it's 8:30, I will stop, unfortunately, here. But this is the way that we can continue. And my phone seemed to be online. No, it's not. Okay. But next time when we sit to chant our rounds in front of the deities or next to Tulsi, we can remember We can look up an image of Krishna, a painting of Krishna that is depicting this pastime, or we have this picture here, and we can meditate on Krishna's form and his qualities. Yeah. Or next time in Kirtan, when we sit in Kirtan, this is what we can meditate upon and remember. But to make the summary of my class, the first point that I was communicating was that everything belongs, that everything is connected, that there is, in Prabhupada's word, ultimately, nothing is material. Rather, everything is spiritual, being connected to Krishna. That's one basic, as Prabhupada says, basic understanding of Krishna consciousness. And then there is another understanding of Krishna consciousness where Prabhupada defines Krishna consciousness as development of love. Towards whom? Towards? What? This much class and you just say Krishna? Towards Shyam Sundar. Why we are using specifically this name, or at least why I understand it. Krishna, when you say Krishna, it can be Dwaraka Krishna, Mathura Krishna, but Shyam Sundar. You don't call Krishna in Mathura or Dwaraka Shyam Sundar. That's Vrindavan Krishna. So, that was the second point. Development of love for Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan. And, as our spiritual master sometimes says, if you happen to forget everything from this class, which might be the case, please remember one thing. I will use the genius words of Srila Prabhupada. It is said that someone is considered really learned if they can explain the most sublime truths in such a simple language that even a child can understand. So please listen to this. Prabhupada is just out of this world, obviously. So Prabhupada quote in letter from 1970, January 21st, to Ekendra Prabhu. 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Even a child can understand. So, look at how Prabhupada is thinking. I would have never come to this conclusion. So, Krishna plus everything is Vrindavan. Very simple. So everything is connected to Krishna. And to which Krishna? To that Krishna, Shyam Sundar in Vrindavan. So please remember this. 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So Krishna plus everything is Vrindavan. I think it's a good motto to live by. And thereby, we conclude the class, even 3 minutes late after 8:30. I'm very sorry for this slight delay on our part.
I'm sorry, Matt, it's just whose car ends in 428? Zurich 428. Anyone here?
We didn't park on. No. We saw the sign that it's reserved for the wedding, so we didn't park there. So, thank you. I think this Prabhu is in charge for organizing that wedding, so that is his concern. But at the very end, please, if you have found anything, any mistake, anything wrong in this presentation, be rest assured that it belongs to me and only me. And if you have found anything that was good, that was inspiring, again, rest assured it belongs to my guru and to my grandfather, Guru Srila Prabhupada, and to our glorious disciplic succession. So at the end, I really want to thank to all of you who came here and gave me this opportunity to learn. So please accept my heartfelt obeisances at your feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. Let's go now before we are thrown out. No one will throw us out, but yeah. If there are any questions, I'm here.
It was very nice.
Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you. So how do we turn this? How do I? Maybe I should not do anything.
Okay.
just ask a similar type of question, yes, but you know,
Klingt auch, das wird mich
some caution is required in how to differentiate between things. And Prabhupada answered against the genius when he said,
Okay, right, yes.
so, it requires some intelligence who we can approach Sadhguru Shastra, we can approach the senior devotees that we're connected to, and they can also help us to work with these things, but not to get. My point was because sometimes I notice people get trapped by that, you know, and then they again end up thinking of themselves instead of thinking of Krishna. So rather than thinking that much of ourselves, rather let's place the focus on Krishna, and then naturally, we will be aware of if we are a different perspective. Some introspection is needed, obviously. Does that make sense? But of course, it's an important point. One shouldn't just be. That's why I said a bit of austerity is needed. Like it's not that we say, I should go and enjoy myself, and then no, some story, and also it's some introspection is needed. That we see our lack, and so, but we shouldn't be focusing on that. Anyway, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I will give it to that. So why should we focus on that? We should give more importance to Krishna. Then he will guide us. That's my understanding. It doesn't have to be right. It's just my personal understanding.
Yeah, because of course I got to know, I got to hear this and so on. And for example, I'm very inspired by Krishna, that he puts this book together, Gita 3, and it's actually all about focusing on our development in that sense. I found it was a wonderful book, and then of course we don't have to take it as like one and everything, and we just focus on ourselves and self-development.
But look, there is a big point here that you yourself just made. I haven't read the book, so I don't know exactly. But you said we are focusing on our development. We're not focusing on what is lacking. We're not focusing on all our conditionings and mistakes and faults. And we are focusing on our development as a servant of Krishna, and it's always in connection with Krishna. So that's there. You made yourself a very important point. It's not. I'm quite sure that it's not a book that speaks about our faults and mistakes and everything that we're lacking. There must be some mention of that, but I hope the focus is
It's really about the improvement. It's really about going towards Krishna more and more.
Okay, so that's again, it's a positive engagement, or not? Yeah. So it just confirms something. I didn't say that we shouldn't be introspective. So like with everything, it takes some intelligence. So one can understand it. So I don't have to do anything.
The priest.
Which in a way is also good.
So he's like a priest.
In a way, because Prabhupada said, like we have the famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, the second chapter. All that you need is to focus on hearing and chanting, right? And then Krishna will do the purifying work. What can we do on our own? What am I actually able to do on my own? I need for everything. I need Krishna's help. Otherwise, I will be selfish.
I think that endeavor and
What kind of endeavor? What kind of endeavor?
to try to please Krishna.
So, positive engagement. How do you please Krishna? What do you do? All good? How do you call good work? What do you tell you to do? Prabhupada just had rigidly chanting 60. So we chant, we hear, we do these things, and then everything else will come. We don't have to on the side and try for that. Yeah? Does that help?
Yeah.
But it's a good, it's a good point. Can we add it to the description or not? Can I formulate it and then give it to you, and then you will? Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was like, how will a chanter this? I mean, it's possible. The verse, I was okay. You surrender. I was even like, usually
something funny.
No, maybe that's how I look because they told us that we have to be out of the room at 8:20. So
Okay.
maybe when I look at it, I'm like, oops, I'm still here.
No
That's why. No problem. No.
How are you?
You're good, good.
Nice,
You?
nice, okay. Well, still standing, so everything is fine. Yeah. I was in India, and yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
What's your plan?
That's a very good question.
Okay.
I'm at the moment I'm asking Krishna what is his plan.
Oh,
So
okay.
we are in the negotiating part
Okay.
to see how we go on about that one.
Let's see.
Yeah. Who's getting married today?
An Indian man and a German lady.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Wonderful.
So send them to heaven.
Wonderful. Very well.
Very well.
See you then. What are you encouraging? Thank you. I also learned by preparing the class. Excellent. So thank you for That's true. That's true. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm just great. I'm not so good. I pray. So that's the secret. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. Very well.
Dank u wel. Dank nog een Mandy, hè? Bringst noch Früchte und...
Alles, ich habe schon alles,
Ah,
schon
okay.
alles daheim.
Okay, super.
Ist alles da.
Freue mich.
Ja, wegen dem Ghee. Ich habe 2 Ghee-Schalen. So, ich weiß nicht, ob du das kennst von Go. Wo ich mitbringe.
Ja, ja. Ja,
Und zwei Maries.
ja, was Kilo Reis, ja?
Ich habe 2 Kilo.
Ja, das ist natürlich.
Haben wir genug Gefäße und alles?
Ja, ja, ich auch. Ja, also.
Krishna, machst du das?
Ja. Also ein Inder und ein Deutscher. So, was? Leute einfach so. Mann oder Bibel. Einfach.
Mhm.
Ich habe eigentlich das andere Zimmer ist jetzt doch auch. Eigentlich sieht es besser aus, gar kein Badzimmer.
Mandali. Mandali. Ist ich da richtig im Sack? Ja. Mandali, wo willst du sie haben?
Dort, oder?
So, oder?
Da haben wir noch zwei Stiele.
Haribol!
Haribol! Wir tun sie hier bei Ihnen.
Alles okay?
Ja, soweit schon.
Garan und alles so drauf?
Hä?
Garan ist auch
Ja, ja. Wie kann sie hier anstellen? Siehst du, wenn wir zwei Stiele anstellen hier?
So, oder?
Genau dort, ja.
Yes, please. Ich glaube, Sie haben so einen näher wieder bei der Dieti, oder nicht?
Okay.
Ist gut so? Geht näher, so näher wie möglich. Sie wollen ja mit der... du bist da nicht da gewesen, haben es doch mal angeschaut. Sie haben so näher wie möglich da wählen, darum habe ich die Hunde weggenommen.
Okay, das ist gut.
Und dann die Eltern hinten auf den Stuhl sitzen. So.
Genau. Aber weißt du, wir müssen darum laufen, allzu näher.
Ja, okay.
Also
Vielleicht
noch
da,
da.
oder? Ja.
Ja, vielleicht da, wo du stehst.
Ja, wo ich stehe.
Genau.
Okay, ja, machen wir es doch so.
Okay, dann können wir das alles überziehen.
Das kann man das gerade sehen.
Ja, genau.
Der ist auch offen lassen, oder? Jetzt unten dann ansetzen, machen wir offen lassen. Was meinst du? Mittagessen. Nein, Mittagessen zu, sowieso machen wir. Das Aperitief. Aha. Und dann Mittagessen. Oder machen wir.
Nein, machen wir ja gesagt.
So, also nein, nicht besser.
Weißt du, wer den Schlüssel hat vom Butchani-Keller unten?
Vom Wellenkeller.
Weißt du, im Blumenkeller? Und dann auf der linken Seite, wenn du hingehst, ist ein Butchani-Keller, da ist das Schloss noch. Okay.
Ich freue mich, weil ich suche.
Genau, und da drinnen hat es glaube ich nochmal 2 so Lampen.
Ja, die brauchst du auch.
Und die kleinen auch.
Und die kleinen sind 4.
Ja, genau.
Okay, bringst du.
Könnten wir noch ein bisschen so, oder nicht? Damit wir hinten dran noch 2 Reihen anstellen. Willst du noch?
Okay.
Nur ein bisschen. So. Bräutigam,
Etwas Neues.
Ja, und die Blumen, das hätte ich auch noch haben dort.
Gut, ja.
Du
Der
hast
Sack ist gut.
super, ja.
Ja, die Blumen, die noch nicht stehen.
Genau.
Ja.
Okay.
Ja.
Brauchst du Hilfe dann?
Ja, man muss vielleicht noch ein bisschen weiter Zeiten tun. Aber was können die anderen 2 machen?
Okay. Die Stühle ist okay da?
Ja, mehr oder weniger, ja, klar schon. Richtig gleich. Genau.
Ja.
So ist gut, ja, danke.
most beautiful here. Schönste.
Haben wir es machen?
Ja, die sind nicht vorhanden. Ich habe noch einen gefunden. Ist nicht mehr vorhanden. Oh je. Ich habe alles geschaut, ich habe 5 geschafft. Die müssen woanders sein.
Ja.
Der große?
Schaut in der Hälfte bei
Ja.
Aber die brauchen wir jetzt nicht nehmen. Oder? Nein.
Is that yours?
No, this one.
Servieren wir ihn vor 10 Minuten in diesem Thema und dann können wir hier absitzen und ein bisschen Aperitif. Okay, danke. Noch 15 Minuten.
Nimmst du das Leon dort ins Eiland? Das kannst du nicht machen.